Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome. It's another edition of Purpose for Forever. There you go. Appreciate you guys for being here, being a part. My podcast people, appreciate you as well. If you're rocking with the podcast, it's new to you guys. We've had several episodes that have not been published on the podcast, so welcome. Um, and make sure you like, subscribe, rate, all that good stuff, as well as those that are watching this on YouTube or Facebook on the replay. Make sure you are rating, review, thumbs up, thumbs down. Let us know how you feel, and throw in the comments other things you'd like us to talk about. All right. Also, text LW into 84576. Never miss a broadcast. Just shout out the text. Everyone should get it.
Right.
And we appreciate you guys for being here, rocking with us. And wait, one more thing. Make sure you text P4F to that same number, 84576, and you can be a part of the Intentional Love Challenge. All right. So, without further ado, as you can see, we're going to be talking about how do you support your spouse when they are struggling. And what, you may ask? We're going to get into that. All right. We'll be right back right after this. And we're back. Indeed. Welcome to another edition of Purpose for Forever. We come on every single Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And again, if you've missed any broadcasts, make sure you check out the podcast. Just put in Purpose for Forever, and you'll get to see our face.
I guess.
So today we're talking, how do you support your spouse when they are struggling?
So, since he's just talking, May has been Mental Awareness Month. And so before the month closes out, we definitely wanted to add a little something to it. Although we are married and we are spouses, we are also individuals. And sometimes in our individual lives, we struggle with different things. Sometimes we struggle with what our definition of being a spouse is.
Right.
Or, whether or not we're meeting that expectation. But we could struggle with several different things in our lives. And oftentimes, especially being a spouse, you have this other person that is connected to you.
Right.
And they're either watching you struggle or concerned that you're struggling and may not necessarily know how to jump in, when to jump in, or what they should be doing, and sometimes what they even shouldn't be doing.
Right.
So we wanted to just go over a couple of things. Things, of course, that work for us. We say that all the time. We just talk about things that work for us. So we just want to talk about a few things that have worked for us, some things that have not worked for us, and, some things that maybe we've yet to put into practice. So that's kind of where the topic came from, that I kind of wanted to discuss, like when you're a wife and you see that your husband is struggling, when you know that he's struggling with something, whether it could be finances, it could be, something personal. And when I say personal, something like that, as a wife, you could maybe understand or see his pain, but as a woman, you may not totally be able to relate to. That's kind of what I mean about something personal. Because once you're married, personal kind of is a weird space to be in.
Right.
But there are things that are exclusive to my womanhood. That although he could hear me and maybe be sympathetic or empathetic to what I need or require, he don't really totally understand because he's not wired the same.
Right.
And that's okay. But we wanted to talk about those things all the same.
Right.
So I'll start while he's sharing. So for me, when I know that something's bothering him, and how do I know something's bothering him? More times than not is because he's wearing it. What do I mean? I can tell in his body posture, like in his posture. I can tell, in the way he sits, the way he breathes. We've been together for so long and been friends for so long. Like, I just know when something's off. Right. I can't put my hand on it and identify exactly what it is, but I know something's off. So typically, first, I try to watch and see if it's just a bad moment, right, or when a bad moment is like, oh, okay, it's he'll be all right in like an hour, right. Or if it's a bad day, that you kind of watch and see, okay, well, maybe he just needs some sleep and tomorrow it'll be okay. Or if it becomes like a pattern where it's been a couple of days, that's generally when I get concerned and I'm like, okay, what's wrong? Right. I always try to ask first, try not to assume. I try to give him space to tell me, hey. Typically, what's wrong with my husband is like one of those things that you got to repeat a couple of times before you get an answer. But I try to ask first. I always ask, give him an opportunity to tell me if it's one of those things where he's like, okay, just I need a minute. Give me some time. I try to be patient. I will say try because patience is not one of my strong suits. But I try to give him space to kind of mentally work out what it is. Because sometimes even something's wrong, right, but you don't really know how to express that to somebody else to where it makes sense. Right. It feels wrong or it feels out of whack for you, right, but how do I express it? Him expressing it to me is different. If he's just like, I'm worn out. Right. My first thing is, okay, well, tomorrow, this is what we're going to do. Right. You're going to get some rest. I'm going to take care of things. You're not going to worry about anything, sleeping late, whatever we need to do. What things do you have to do? What can I cover, for the day so you can get some rest? Because if he's tired and irritable, it affects the whole house. It affects our relationship. Right. He's snapping because he hasn't had any sleep. It does nobody any good. So that's one of my biggest things. I try to see where I can lighten the load. What can I do to make it better? And I always ask, like I've learned in the past, doing what I think helps, right, doesn't always help. Right. So I find that's a big thing. Asking, what can I do to make it better? Right. And I know you're like, well, that's a no-brainer. But again, you're leaving the space for your spouse to tell you exactly what they need. Yeah. Sometimes we feel like we know what they need. Right. Like, I've known him since he was 15, 14 years old. Right. I think I know everything about him. But as you age and grow together, your needs and your desires, they change. Definitely. What worked 10 years ago, may not work. Right. Sean says, sometimes being a soundboard for bouncing ideas or being a listening ear to vent to help release frustration. Definitely. Absolutely. There's always, I try to always make room for that, right, for him to bounce things. Sometimes I fail at that. I'm going to be honest. The same way I throw him under the bus, yeah, I'm going to be honest with myself. Sometimes it takes a little longer for him to express it. And again, patience, I'm working on it. The Lord is not through with me yet. Don't judge me. So I that is something that I have to get better with, letting him roll it out, right, in his own time, which again, is very necessary, right, because like I said, over time things change. Like, in past years, I can make him a steak and some potatoes and some vegetables. That's like his favorite meal. And that worked for a lot of years. He'd be in a bad mood. I'd whip up a nice steak and whatever. And, he'd feel a little better. Not that it solved the problems,
Right.
but it was something small that made him feel like, yeah, okay, she got me.
Right.
But now, he don't even want no steak no more. And like that was mind blowing, but it just reminded me how we change and we evolve over
Right.
time, and what I thought he needed
Right.
yesterday is not what he needs today. So
Right.
it's important to ask, what do you need? How can I make this better? Is there a way that I can make it better? Because sometimes there is nothing you can do.
Right.
See, I stopped.
It's fine. I was letting him do it.
I know.
So yeah, definitely, the listening factor, the asking factor. For me, it's just being present, and listening to Sam. And sometimes, with Sam, especially if it's it may be like an us thing or even us related thing. Honestly, no, I take that back. It could be a plethora of things. She wants to make sure it's not rushed time. Like whenever a need, or I feel like either she's been running, and over the last few years, because of how our life has shifted, not just really coming back together, but kind of like how our life has shifted, a lot more clarity. There's like a level of a burnout that happens from time to time, that she needs to not really a rest, but needs to express herself. Like it's like I'm maybe frustrated in a particular area, and it can't be, I got this thing, I'm coming, and then let's talk, and after this I got this, or at least she can't feel like, okay, you just fit me in the middle of things. Like I need time that can be like unlimited, in essence, that you're pausing your whole life right now, and given the time, not that, okay, you got an hour, let's go, because and as crazy as it sounds, it's probably like even just a mental thing, like, babe, I got a good 5 hours, like, it's like, no, I need a limited time, like I need to feel like everything is about me right now, and it is, it is, and so I have to put everything on hold. Everything's on hold until she can at least express how she feels, get all of it out, and then because it's with everything, I'll say from when she's in a little slump, there's either a small component that I might have missed, that she needed in the supporting of her not feeling overwhelmed or not feel like she's drowning or something like that. Not like it's a my fault thing, but just, babe, I just, remember that Saturday, and I was trying to do a lot of stuff for you, like I thought, it's always like, I thought that you want, no, it's something I might have missed. I was like, you're right. My other side was saying, don't do that. Like it's just little stuff like that. When we have those conversations, and honestly, it took us kind of really being in this new space, having a lot of conversations to get to the point where I can, like, okay, boom, you really need some time. Let's go. Let's talk. So, like for me, it's more or less, I need to process. I need a moment, need to watch some dumb TV and just, get out of my emotions, whatever it is,
The dumb is just...
and I say dumb, like I just, whatever's silly on, sometimes I just need to watch something silly. And just get out of my head, and then we talk. I just, and especially if I'm riled up, then it's like, and it may have nothing, because we've had those moments, like the children are doing something, or my son, and it's like she asked me something, she gonna get the kid energy, and that's not gonna make the household any better. And it could be moments like that, but for her, it's more like she needs me close, like she needs me by, and we need to have the conversation. Like the only time it's different is if it's one of those things that she hits me with the, hey babe, we haven't done such and such together in a minute. And it's what I now call the warning shot. Like, that's your warning that it's gonna be bad next week if we don't do. And then and just for clarity, not talking about the all the way bedroom stuff. I'm talking about like just connection, just I'm not present. I haven't been there because of the way the week is set up, and just running, and honestly, pretty much I control my schedule. There are only small little parts that I have obligated to do certain things, but everything else I control. So, that's when she steps in, like, you kind of like all over the place, and you're not here, right here, So then my response, if I don't respond, yeah, right. Here you go. He said Sean says these small things are necessary to help my spouse, right? Running errands, so those errands are not on minds, right? Feeding the belly works, right? Find a good laughing moment, right? So, yeah, definitely. Like I said, I get the warning shot, and then the next week. So if I didn't heed the warning, the next week she ain't ready to talk. Now I'm gonna have to wait.
Don't do it.
Now
like
I gotta
that.
wait.
No.
Yeah, sometimes I got like, hey babe, I'm fine.
So he's right. Like, I do get a little short with my answers, and a lot of times that is because, like, even in my anger, I want to be able to communicate effectively and not from a place of anger. Right. So when I'm angry, right now I don't want to talk about it. Right. Let's just get through the day, because a lot of times it's, you have life and you have things going on. Right. So for me, it's like, let's get through what we need to do, and then we'll talk about it at another time. Right. Like sometimes, no matter how you feel, you can't always stop and talk about it. And right. So sometimes he does get that not now energy. Right. That is definitely for sure. So so when it comes to work, when your spouse is overwhelmed at work, when it's work is the thing that's causing the struggle, that's causing the beat down. Right. It could be the busy season at work. Right. It could be Becky with the good hair, that's the receptionist. It could be your boss that's always too close or in your face. There's so many areas at work, that can cause a strain or overwhelm you. And then you go home with that same energy. For me, I'll say, like, when it comes to work, even before when he worked, like a job out, whatever, my thing would always be, one is, this is not going to be forever. Like, two, just reminding him that regardless of what happens, the job was not really our source. Like, right. And then if you leave tomorrow, if you drop dead right now, your job will continue. Right. And I know you're like, well, that sounds drastic. Yeah, because I needed for him to understand that he was the most important thing. Right. Like, that I needed his mental to be okay. I needed him, where a job wasn't beating down on him so bad that he come home feeling like less than a man. Right. Or, like he's not doing enough. So I never wanted him in that space. So it was important to reassure him, of the fact that you're important. Let's figure out, what changes we can make or what changes need to be made, right. For you to be okay. Don't take on the burden of your job. Sometimes we feel like if we don't do it, it won't get done. Right. And that may be true in the sense that you're there, so you're doing it. Right. But on those instances that you're not there, COVID, if nothing else, should have proven to people all over the world that your job will continue to thrive, right. Whether or not you were there in the building, present, or even, for the people that were laid off and lost their jobs,
Right.
whether you even still work for the company, the company will remain and it will push forward. So I feel like COVID should have definitely been a good lesson for couples on just, where we prioritize. Because just that quick, jobs close their doors, pushed people out. There were lots of people that were blessed enough to not have to go through that experience of being pushed out. Maybe you were just maneuvered around to a different space. But I felt like it was always important to let him know that regardless of the job, I got you. It doesn't matter what happens during the day. When you come home, it's about you. Like, let's focus. If you hate this job, and I know, everybody has responsibilities, what can we do so that maybe you're not here next year? What can we do so maybe you're in a better position? Like, that was always my mindset when it came to a job. Like, reminding him, those people don't know you. Like, I know it seems like you spend the most of your time at work, but like, who you are, you show the best of who you are when you clock out. Most people do. Sean said, no, it's not always negative.
No can save your sanity.
Right. No can save you. Right.
Learn to use
it. Don't burn out. Absolutely.
Right. Yeah.
And that was, something for him. Like, he was never the no. He always, yeah, okay, I got it. Yeah, okay, I'll do it. And then, between coming home and getting here, he spent. So everything, that was his actual life felt like more weight because he was, all his priorities was focused toward the job. So I think, when you have that kind of person, it is important to support your spouse's work. Some of the very people on here, like, they have their job and then they have their passion. Some people, their job is their passion. So I think when you have those instances, it's important to be supportive where you can. It's important, to always remind them how great they are. Like, it's nothing wrong with telling your spouse he's great. It's nothing wrong with, reminding him, hey, you're the man. I married you because you're a great man. There's nothing wrong with that. It doesn't make me less of a woman because I tell my husband, you are great. You're a great provider. You're a great protector. I think those things are important because out in the world, all people want is you to produce. They don't care how you produce. They don't care how you feel. They don't care the strain of you producing, what that does to your body or your mind. So it's important, when the weight of a job is the thing that your spouse is struggling with, it's important for you to build them up. It's important for you to be that cheerleader. They're like, oh, my boss said I ain't do that right. Girl, he didn't look at that. He don't, you must remind him how great you are. Remind him, that you're fabulous. Like, oh, if he didn't like it, tell him he needs to look again. Turn it around, look at it again. His eye, was he wearing his glasses? And I know those things seem silly, but they make a world of difference. You don't know how much of a mental weight you might lift off of your spouse with just going the extra mile sometimes.
Definitely. Definitely going that extra mile. Being aware of your spouse's needs, especially coming to work and, the stresses. And then, like, learning to just listen and not try to solve everything. Learning to hear what they're saying and understand what they're saying, respond accordingly. Because sometimes it's just a vent. They already know that they don't want to solve everything. What's that for that?
I'm laughing at you because sometimes when I'm telling him something, before I can get it out, he already got 14. And I was like, I just want you to listen. He's like,
I got an answer.
Okay. Right, like you're so busy coming up with an answer. Yeah, like, are you really listening?
I'm fixing this. I'm Bob the Builder. Right. So yeah, definitely be in a place just to listen. Sometimes you gotta have a listening ear, an open ear, and be able to have those conversations without getting, I guess you get emotionally attached or emotionally wrapped up in it, but not, it's more of it.
Don't do that online like you so.
Yeah,
you can drink my
you can
water.
drink my last bit of water, baby. But yeah, definitely being present. When it's emotional, definitely we can get into the spiritual part of it. Being able to spiritually be there for your spouse, praying, and for me, just that's one thing I've lacked in my household for a long time. I mean, I've gotten better over the last couple of years, especially this year. Just getting into the prayer and studying more in the Word and things of that nature. Being there for your spouse, so we can have those conversations as well. Because we, as believers, God is our foundation, and sometimes we have to turn back to it. We have to make sure we are solid on our footing and solid on where we stand, just to kind of keep our head straight. Because without that anchor, it could get challenging. Okay, listen, start hearing stuff. We're in our house.
Nosies.
We might have to pause this broadcast. Right, pray for your spouse. Yes, indeed. So we doing more of that. Definitely helps. Even it's just an encouragement. That I'm thinking about you, and I'm asking God to protect you. Waking up, going to bed. Where we go, things of that nature. Just being mindful about that aspect of our life. And like overall, it's being aware, because struggles come, even when it comes to finances and things of that nature. We can get so wrapped up in what we see. One of us has to be like, I need us to see further.
Right.
I need us to see where we're going. And that old adage, trouble don't last always. We're gonna get through this. It's gonna be all right. And we gotta, especially when it comes to finance, like the worst that can happen is this and this. We can survive this. We'll be all right. Not to say you don't think about it or figure a plan out, but you can't worry about stuff you can't fix or you just can't change. It's just you come to those is what it is moments, and you just gotta find a way to deal, because finances can be a big fight in the family, a struggle, because then it's the coulda, woulda, shoulda, you shoulda, I shoulda, they shoulda.
Don't compile.
Right.
Like if he already made a decision and the money was spent, don't now going into you shouldn't have bought them sneakers or you should compiling doesn't help.
Right.
Like that just adds to the stress. Like I mean, it's unnecessary. Trust me, in your mind, you thinking it. Like, well, I told him to do this, and if he did it, he'd have been all right. Yeah. And a lot of times in my mind, I'm saying that. I'm not even going to lie to you. I'm saying, if he'd have did what I said, like, we all have those moments. Like, we're human.
Right.
It's realistic. But, I try not to compile. When he's already beating himself up, I'm like, okay, you've done that enough. Right. Like you've done a good enough job. No need to make it a jump. It's two against, you know what I'm saying? Two people beating you up. You got it covered. Right. Like, okay, so now that this has happened, like, how do we move forward? Right. I think it's important always to push the forward motion. Right. Like, we've seen so many stories the last few months of people, during COVID, after COVID, people taking their own lives. Husbands, fathers, mothers, children, like just the weight of the world seems like it's too much. Yes. And, God forbid, like as a spouse, you're sleeping in the bed with somebody every night, you're going your separate ways during the day, and they feel so overwhelmed with their life and they can't come to you that they think that's the only answer. Right. Like, nobody wants to be in that position. So he talked a little bit about the spiritual part. Right, Sean. He said, remind them they made it. Right, absolutely. Indeed. Like we've made it this far. We've made it through so many things together, working together. So if we continue to work together, we'll continue to thrive. He talked about the spiritual part. So we can always come back to that because there's loads that goes into that. But I want to talk about the emotional part. The men and women are emotionally we're different in a lot of ways, even though we may have similarities. Typically we deal with things differently and we process things differently. Especially, I know, like for me, I'll say like it's almost kind of like every 10 years, I feel my emotions doing something. Like even now, maybe I don't know, it's menopause. I'm old. I don't know what to tell you, but like sometimes I'm emotional. Like I was at work the other day and it wasn't nothing major that was happening. I don't know. I guess I just start thinking about too much and all that I had to do in the upcoming days and the fact that he was going to be there somewhere else, I was going to be over here, and it seemed like we hadn't spent any time together, whatever, and I got really overwhelmed, like, and so I called him and I'm like, okay, I just need to talk because like I feel overwhelmed. I feel like I'm gonna cry, and I know for most people like, oh, cry, get over it. Crying's a big deal for me. Whatever, feel however you want to feel about it. For me, it's a big deal. I'm not a crier, so when I cry, it's a big deal for me, and I don't like to cry. So,
Get that I do that quite a bit.
hey, Erica, thanks for joining us. She said, I definitely get that. I do that quite a bit. Yeah, so I called him and I'm like, okay, this is how I'm feeling. And, I needed him just to hear how I'm feeling. I didn't need to leave work, whatever. And in that moment, he could have been like, babe, I'm busy. I got stuff to do. But he stopped what he was doing to be able to hear me and just listen to me. And, remind me, look, you got this. We got this. I make sure you know what, you're right. I'm going to pick up the slack here, and there. And I got you covered. And not that I didn't feel like he wasn't there, but it's always good to be reminded. Like, I got your back. You do A, B, I got C, D. It's important to remind our spouses that we're there, emotionally. Like, for like a woman, I know people feel different about men crying or whatever the deal is. For a long time I did. I used to be like, what? Yeah, no. Now at my age, I feel very differently. But it's important, like, if he needs to cry in a moment, for whatever that moment is, like, I need to put my personal stuff to the side and be able to hear him, be able to let him be vulnerable in front of me, because if he's not vulnerable with me, then who is he vulnerable with? The same thing with your wife. If she can't cry to you, even though she may be a crybaby, maybe she cry a lot. But if she don't cry to you, who does she cry to? Like, people always talk about work husbands. Is that what you like? Your wife to get a work husband? Like, I think about those things. Do I really want him to have, like, a work wife? Like, there are some things that I think is important that remains between you and your spouse. And that level of vulnerability is important. And so you have to be willing to allow that space. Allow them to be vulnerable. Listen. I know you get tired of hearing crying. Nobody don't want to. You know how hard it is to talk to somebody that crying.
Hey, Lisa.
You got to go through all of that. And it can be frustrating. Hey, Lisa, thanks for joining us. But it's important as a spouse to, have those moments. If she got to cry, you got to let her cry. It's important emotionally to be that support, to be that anchor. To be able to listen, to be able to remind them again, like how great they are. Baby, you got this. What do I need to do? Even if it's what I need to do so you're not crying. Like, what slack do I need to pick up so you don't feel overwhelmed? What slack do I need to, what do I need to do so your feelings aren't hurt or you don't feel like, like you're not good enough? What part can I play? I think it's always important to ask those questions because we all have those weak moments.
Definitely.
And if they can't come to you for strength, if you're not where they're going to lean, then can you really be upset when they lean somewhere else? And yes, best friends are great. And you could have prayer partners and you have your pastors or your leaders and all those things. And you may even have siblings. But I feel like there's a level of vulnerability and intimacy that should just be between a husband and a wife. So, like when he needs those moments, if he ever needs those moments,
Definitely.
I need to be ready, open, and available to be there in those moments.
Right. That being available is definitely key. I don't know if definitely key to building and growing. And I for a long time I wasn't. There were times that she needed me to be available and I wasn't there. Like she just need a moment. Like there were times she would, hey, can you, like I would work all the time. Can you call out today? I need your attention. Like the weeks have been going, and like I said, I would miss the small subtle hints, but she would need me. Like just I need some time. I need to talk to you about how I'm feeling. And for a long time I never really recognized it. And for all the men that are listening, sometimes the priority of work or home, you know, we struggle because we've gotten to that space where we gotta provide. I gotta be the provider. I gotta be the provider. But we are missing out on the emotional support that we should be giving our families, and a lot of that I missed out on, especially with her. Like my kids, they were young. It's easy. They're good. You some hugs, some kisses, see my face. It's easy. Long as I stay what I'm gonna do, I'm good. Good money with them. But wife requires more. Some attention, some conversation.
Big girl.
But yeah, definitely being transparent and communicative with your spouse is key. Like I said, communication is key, but being present is key. Being emotionally available is key, and not like fitting them into your schedule. Making real time. We're to the point like Mondays are our time. We try to make Mondays as much about us as possible. And take care of each other.
Right.
So this is our time together. Because I'm keep it real. I've been missing these. Like I was, we've been together. Pandemic, we was together a lot. And so we're back to like a regular kind of schedule. So we're like Mondays is our time together. So I don't do anything else. We just spend our time together. I try to accomplish anything on Sunday or Tuesday. It's hard, but Mondays is us. So just so we can talk and just kind of make sure we're checking in with each other and make sure we're good. And you have to have that. You have to have that. You have to have that constant check-in with each other to make sure we're good. Because you'll go throughout the days and the weeks and the months, and somebody may be off. Like I said, she at least gives me the warning. Like we haven't had a good check-in. And for me,
Fire warning shots.
unfortunately, like at night, sometimes it's rough. But listen, sometimes I get up, but it's just it's more. So I just have to make time, that quality time that we can really spend together. Basically, in a nutshell, just spending that real quality time so that we can make sure we're good and we can push forward. Because we know as parents, our volatility affects our children.
Right.
Because children are gonna be children. Let's keep it real. As much as we want them to not or stop doing something, it's like, I'm just doing my job, right? This room is not gonna be clean because I gotta do my job and not totally clean it. So you can come in there and fuss at me again. It's like it's just certain things that we already know is gonna take place. So if we're off, then the whole house is gonna be off.
Absolutely.
So yeah, definitely having those conversations. Make sure we checking in. And if you, like you said, if you see it, then it's all in your spouse's face, and you just gotta find ways to dig in. Some of us guys are really hard. We don't want to express ourselves enough, and we have to do better. We have to do better because you can't blame your spouse when you blow up when she's been asking you for weeks. What's wrong? What's bothering you? What's the problem? Something is affecting you. You're not the same because you're not operating the same.
Right.
You're not responding the same. You're not laughing at the jokes anymore. Like something is bothering you. So we have to be transparent. We have to be real. We have to just really get open with our spouse And I've said before, like I struggled for a long time with that, just opening up. And it just, like I said, it wasn't because of her, just me. I was never opening up. I just held so close to the vest that if anybody in the world that you need to be opening up to, it has to be your spouse. I say have to, because she's with you all the time. All the time. She the one that no matter what happens, she gonna be there. You get locked up, who gonna be there trying to bail you out? Like I'm just saying, like who's riding with you harder than your spouse. So that's just the message, guys. If you're listening, see it on replay. Just you gotta open up with your spouse. You gotta be transparent. You gotta be honest with them. It's and if you've been hiding, it's rough. Now you're exposing certain things, but you'll have a much better marriage if you get all the skeletons out of your closet. Real talk. All right. Let's see. Do you ever? Oh, come on. I'll let you put up. Do you ever just come out with these issues without prompting? Seems like men take longer to share their thoughts. Cause sometimes
good question.
We sometimes you try to get over stuff. Like you just it don't bother me. I don't care. I'm being honest. You go through that, I don't care. It don't bother me. Then it just it is bothering me. I'm being honest, cause you have a conversation within yourself, like, why is this annoying me so much? Like, especially if it's small. Like if it's something my wife does, I'm like, why is this annoying me so much? Why is this bothering me? And then because a lot of times you weigh it, is it worth having this not even that long, well, in our minds, that's why we don't do it, long discussion, about it. And unfortunately, more guys have, and I found that some women have the whole conversation in their head about what's going on, and we don't say anything. And like we talked about earlier, in Brothers of Legacy, feeling like we hold an issue because we don't want to start an argument. But I gotta say this: you need to have the discussion. You need to just have it because it's bothering you. Okay. It's gonna affect you too. If it's on you, right, and your spouse is trying to hug you, and this thing is still like in between you guys, she feels it. It's like, when something crawling on you, you feel it, but you can't, you may not see it. She know it's there. Right. She just don't know what it is. You know what it is, but you're not saying anything because you're trying to get over it. I'm trying to get over it. I'm just trying to get over this thing, but I can't. And why I know you're like, why don't I just say something? Because I'm trying to get over it. Because I think it's stupid. It's a stupid issue, and I'm trying to get over it. So I'm sitting on it, right? I know I'm sitting on it. After a day or two, you see it on my face. I'm good. I'm fine. I am stupendous. So, and I can't get over it. So, it's just expressing the little things. Let's see. Go ahead. Rollins says,
you gonna do the conversation.
Nah, you got it.
You should have more conversation with your spouse than the conversation in your head. Thank you, Sean. Coming from a man. I appreciate that, Sean Rollins. I appreciate that.
I'm working on it. I'm doing better.
But yes, I would definitely say he. I mean, honestly, from where we were to where we are now, he does amazing with it. Of course, there's always room for improvement. So, I don't trip like I used to, because I just got to the point where I was over it. Right. So I've learned how to deal with it better, and I do try to give him a little bit of time, to process. Probably by I done asked the third time, I remind him. So this is the third and final time that I'm asking, just so you know. So when you're ready, you let me know. So when it gets to that point, that's okay, but I make sure that I let him know that. I mean, I think, what do you do when your spouse is struggling? You be there. Yeah. You be there. And if you're not sure how to be there, ask.
Right.
Because if you're there and you're there wrong,
Yeah.
it just makes the situation worse. Like if I'm complaining what somebody did to me or if something is bothering me, because I feel like somebody did something and it hurt my feelings. And if his response is, girl, get over it. You too sensitive anyway. He might be there, but you there wrong. And now I don't want you there.
Right.
I think it's important to ask what they need. Okay, babe, if you feel like your feelings are hurt, how do we go forward? If it's somebody that you have to come in contact with, this is somebody that you have to deal with, like you have to go to work tomorrow. How do we deal with it? He said, learn that all thoughts being shared brings us closer, even in my mind. Still trying to play things out. Right. Does not seem that way, but she proves positivity and sharing.
Nice.
Right.
Nice.
Yeah, like you gotta let us in.
Yeah.
Like I can't be there for him if he doesn't let me in. And vice versa. I have to be willing to let him in too. Like I can't determine. It's like you done held court, found, this is a dumb thought. You've already, sent is dumb, so we're gonna throw it in the closet forever. Right. But you're dragging it around with you. So it's important, to be able to communicate that. It really is.
And just as a note, I don't know why it just came to my mind. And I was gonna say this is for ladies, but this is for men too. Like if your significant other shares something and at any point, in any way, you weaponize that information back at them, trust it just gets harder for them to ever reveal anything else to you. So if you have either the past or close, like it hasn't been long, last time you said something back that they shared with you, you need to totally apologize.
Right.
I mean, like, apologize like I'll never ever, because it's and even sometimes women they're pretty sharing, but if I weaponize something she said against me, like that hurts. That's almost like worse than calling a name out. Like this just I guess maybe up there. But I'm just saying, like I took something from her past that she shared with me or something that she was dealing with, and I turned it against her, or threw it at her, and in our argument, that's why such and such, like you just like, oh, you gonna take one of my hurtful moments and throw it back at, like there is always a comeback. You can always come back. There's always a healing, but now you've just created a whole new road of healing that has to take place. Like now you've changed our relationship. Communication is key. We have to trust our partners with our thoughts. Right. We should be a safe place. Right. A safe place
for one another.
Right.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Yeah. I'll have to agree with what he said. That whole weaponizing, throwing something back in somebody's face, like that is definitely up there with, like he said, call them out of their names. That like those go in the comment in the column of never. Right. Like never calling you out of your name. Right. Never throwing stuff back up in your face. Right. Like that's in the column. That should be in the columns of the never. Right. Like and I know never and always. We try to stay away from them words. You always do. You never do. Like we consciously try to stay away from those words because those are like such finite words. Right. But that is something that should definitely be in that never column. Like never throw it back up in their face. And I would say another way sometimes to be there for your spouse is when maybe the load is too much for you to bear. Right. Maybe all the emotions that they feel or whatever, you don't know how to help them process it. Mm-hmm. You don't know how to make the wound better. Physically, if there's a wound and, it's too big for a Band-Aid, look, we got to go to the hospital. Right. I think sometimes emotionally and mentally, if your mind is just bogged down, look, babe, maybe we should talk to a counselor. Maybe we should do some therapy. We could do some family counseling. Right. Offer to do it with them. Don't be like, you need counseling.
Right.
It's better, like, maybe we could do some family counseling, so they could be talking them through it while they're also talking you through how to be a support.
Right.
How to be a better support system. So sometimes being there is you have to bring in somebody else. Fine, maybe you don't do counselors. Maybe you do spiritual leaders. I know, y'all, the church is messed up. The church is broke. I got it. All that stuff. But there's always somebody.
Right.
Like every church ain't broke. Every
Right.
church don't want your money. Every church, the pastor not doing crazy stuff.
Right.
There are some places where you can find some genuine spiritual guidance and love.
Right.
And I think, if we're talking about the success of your family and your marriage and your relationship, sometimes it's important enough to seek somebody out. And it's like, okay, babe, listen, I know we taking a chance, but this one don't work, we got to try somebody else. Like, we're not just going to give up because, you might have to kiss a few frogs. Like, we might, we'll take it slow and see if it works. But if not, we'll find another option. Sometimes it's important to bring somebody else in. And maybe you're not to the level where it needs to be a professional person. Maybe you just need a different group of friends.
Right.
Maybe you need a different group, to go out with and just be husband and wife. Right. Like, tonight, baby, you're going to be my girlfriend. Right. Tonight, you're going to be my boyfriend. We're going to put on something and we're going to go out and act like we haven't acted in 20 years. Whatever that is. Like, we going to, usually we home by 9. Tonight, we going to stay out till midnight. Right. Maybe it's important just to change the groups that you're connected to. Right. A shameless plug, Purpose for Forever is a great place to start. I'm just joking. Well, no, I'm serious too, but sometimes just changing the group that you're connected to. Like, I'll be honest with you, for a long time, our marriage sucked. Right. Sucked. Mm-hmm. And the group of people we were connected to be honest, I don't even think any of them is still married. Right. When you think back to it. And if they are married, they ain't married to the same people.
Right.
Right. So we were connected to a bunch of people that were drowning just like we were drowning. Right. Yeah. And honestly, when we figured out how to get on the boat and out the water, and try to sail through this thing together, we collected a different group. Right. We decided we needed a different group of people. Right. We needed to be connected to a different group. Yeah. People that could be honest with us and people that could say, hey, maybe you tripping a little bit. Maybe it's you. Right. I think sometimes that's needed. Sometimes that may be how you help. Right. If a professional won't cut it, then let's go and try some different friends. Double dates is still a thing. Right. Let's go to dinner. We could just talk, and you don't have to get into the the deepness of everything over dinner. Right. But you start with a building block. Okay, well, hey, we like them, right. So maybe we'll go out again. It's just a matter of opening up other avenues. The important part is when you see your spouse drowning, don't just let them drown. Right. Even, ladies, sometimes we're stay-at-home moms and you see your husband, he the bills is piling up. Right now they're talking about inflation. We've seen gas go up and up and up, and then it went down and now it's back up. That puts a financial strain on the house. Fine, maybe you're not in a position you can go back to work. But everybody got something. You got a side hustle. There's something you do that even if you brought in $100 extra a month, there's something. Like, don't be scared to try to, shoulder some of the weight. Like, because if he drowned, the family goes down. If she drowns, the family goes down. Your kids are affected. Your household is affected. So we have to be there to hold each other up. We have to be there as that support system. So ask what they need. Ask, how can I help? What do you need from me? And then, start one by one trying to fill those things in. It's important. It's important to the success of your household, your marriage, your children, because they're watching. They're watching how you deal with things. They're watching how you deal with each other. So all that is important. So I think it's, just be mindful. Keep praying all the time. Mother-in-laws in New York used to always say, keep the prayer wheel turning.
Right.
That's what she used to say all the time. Just keep the prayer wheel turning.
Right.
And, it's just, and that's the thing, what the Bible says, men ought to always pray.
Right.
You should always be praying. And nobody said you got to get on your knees and you don't got to do the ugly cry all the time and, go to snotting and all that. That's not necessary. You can be praying while you're cooking. Lord, while I'm making this meal for my family, build us up, Lord. Grow us closer. Keep your arms of protection around us. It's the little stuff that means the most. So let's try to keep the little stuff. Let's help each other be healthy, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. If you're not going to do it for your spouse, then who is?
Right. Indeed. That's good. Awesome. We appreciate you guys for being here, rocking with us another edition of Purpose for Forever. Where we come on every Monday. And all right. So as always, we appreciate you guys. Listen, make sure you share, tag somebody, tag another couple to be a part and be a part of this conversation. Share this broadcast to everybody that you know. If you're on the YouTube, make sure you give the thumbs up, thumbs down.
No, keep
thumbs up.
Put your thumb in your pocket.
And hit that subscribe button.
Positivity only.
So we look forward to seeing you guys next week. As always, love intentionally.
Love unconditionally.
And love on purpose.